Hello, hello, hello. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. My name is Katherine Young, and I'm a creative. My channel, or there we are, we're live. I always need to see myself if I'm going live. I just like don't trust that it's going until I can see it. And also, seeing a second screen, watching me going live, it helps me to kind of, remember like keep eye contact, keep smiling, and it just helps me remember things like that. Um, Good morning, anyone that is joining me the day of. So today is April 15th, and what's planned for today is to do an ephemera share. And ephemera shares are something that I do on my channel. I love ephemera shares, and if you enjoy ephemera and looking at old ephemera, I have an entire playlist of ephemera shares. I will be sure to link it below in this video afterwards. Oh, good morning. We have some people popping in live. Hi, Bree. I miss you. Bree has the best smile, by the way, everyone, just so you know. Hi, Karen. We got two Karens in the house. Good morning. Good morning. I do ephemera shares on my channel, but typically you see my hands in gloves and you're just looking at the ephemera. I love those videos to pieces. They are some of my favorite videos to do. Ephemera is one of my absolute favorite things to collect. That's vintage, and I love sharing it with people. But in all honesty, not a lot of people watch those videos. I don't think people even know that ephemera sharing is a type of video that is on YouTube. I don't think people know to look for it. It's a really, really niche. Like, it's just so niche, right? And oh, just quickly, when I'm talking about ephemera, I'm talking about ephemeral items, paper items, items that weren't really made to last for a long time. A lot of people collect those because we love the fact that they have made it till now. So pamphlets, books, brochures, ads, all that is ephemera. And a lot of other things are ephemera too. Hi, Katie. I miss you. I finally have energy again. So I thought I could get up and film a little bit. Now, if you're watching this on the replay and you're sick of me rambling, I promise you below I'm going to have chapters in the replay, so you can just skip around to things you want to see if me chatting in the morning is bothering you. But in the live, I like to start just by chatting, saying hi, let people join on the live stream because not everybody gets notifications right away. So today I wanted to do an ephemera share of a piece I've been wanting to share for a long time. And it is this beautiful out of print Titanic book. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Now, there were different editions of this made. This one is the stories told by the survivors. So that is the edition this is. This is actually from 1912. So if you were alive at that time, this is something that you could pick up to kind of learn about the events of the Titanic. You would know about the Titanic, via newspaper and such. But if you really wanted to know what happened, you would pick up this book in 1912. So this is from that exact year. So today we're going to read a few of the tales in here. And just warning for anyone, I am an aspirational reader. I own more books than I will ever read. And this is one of them. I haven't gotten to reading this. I know Jay from Jay Harper's Things said she read this book, so she has read it. I have not. So today you're going to be on the journey with me. We're just going to page through and we're going to find something to read, okay? Just how I do with my own ephemera. Sometimes I pick it up and I just go through it and read it. So we're going to have a real-time reaction. My reaction to the story is going to be real-time as well because I haven't read it yet. So we are going to read through a few pieces, but obviously we can't get through the whole book. We're going to be on probably about an hour live. And then something that I'm really excited about that I think will be really fun to share is I also have this descriptive piano composition from 1912. Now, this was, I don't know anything about the composer, Jeanette Forrest, But this was published in 1912 as well. So this is another way that if you were alive in 1912, you would learn about the Titanic sinking, right? So what I did is I hired a pianist to play this music for us. So we are going to listen to this out of print music from 1912. That is very descriptive. It is very descriptive. When you hear the music, you will understand. It tells the story of what happened. So we are going to listen to this, and this probably nobody has listened to it, in a long, long time. I will play this once at the beginning today, and I will play it once at the end for anyone that joins later. So that is a really fun way we're going to share this ephemera. So we're not just going to look at it and think, oh, cool, this is from 1912, 111 years ago. We're actually going to listen to it. So, oh, we got more people jumping in. Oh, Miss Pam. I love Miss Pam. She is one of those people that just like radiates onto you. And oh my gosh, I've been keeping that Miss Pam light with me ever since I saw her. Hi, Sheila. Who else did I miss? Hi, Jamie. Hi, Sawdust. Oh, hi, Kitty Cat. Me and Kitty Cat are working on doing a sale, you guys. We just keep pushing it back, but it is coming, I promise, and it's going to be really fun. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. So we're going to get going in about just 1 minute. And if you're popping in on the replay, just know that there will be chapters below. I'll put them after this is done, and you can hop around to things you're interested in. We are going to start out by playing The Wreck of the Titanic, a descriptive piano composition. And that's what this is. It is very, very descriptive, which is really, you'll see, it's very interesting. It definitely tells the story of the wreck. So, I love sheet music. It's one of my absolute favorite things to collect. I really want to do an all sheet music sale. I know that sheet music can be not that popular, but I think it's so beautiful. Like the sheet music illustrations, like gorgeous as heck, right? I do want to do an all sheet music sale at one time. But we are going to start out today listening to this song. Now, I'm going to do a quick start play, and I need you all to tell me if you can hear it. And then we're going to play the whole thing. I do need my pro, Katie from Vintage and Vinyl. She's so good at knowing how to play different screens and such. And I may fumble it the first time. I may not get it so that it plays. So I just need to be sure that y'all can hear it. So let's see. I want there we go. I want that view. Okay, so I am going to just play a tiny bit, and y'all just let me know if you can hear it, okay? And then we'll play the full thing through. Can you hear piano music? It was just single keys. Could you hear that? Yeah, I'm excited. Yes. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we're going to react to this in real time. And yeah, we are going to just go for it. So. And that is the composition. Wasn't it beautiful? It's very descriptive, isn't it? It is. It's descriptive. Like you know exactly what's happening. And it does leave you in a little bit of sorrow, right? I mean, not campy sorrow, but like pure sorrow. I thought it was beautiful. So yeah, this is something you would have listened to in 1912. You would have bought this sheet music to hear what, a descriptive feeling of the time would have been of what happened. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. We don't necessarily we don't necessarily hear what is on these pages unless it's a song that is kind of moved through time and we all know it. I was seeing in the comments people were calling out the songs that there were like snippets running through this. So those songs we know, but like how many of us have heard that full composition, right? It's not as common. It tends to be like the Yankee Doodle dandies and the things that have made it through time that we've heard. So I will play this one more time at the end to just anyone who pops in late. So yeah, I'm excited. This is the first time I've paid anyone to do sheet music, and since this is from 1912, it is out of copyright, so it is okay to play it. But yeah, if you can leave me comments after the video or anything, if you found this really interesting, it might be a way that I do ephemera shares in the future, that I hire someone to play the music so we can all hear it. So that might be something for the future. All right, and so now we are going to just look at this memorial book. Now, again, this is from 1912. I love a good old book. And this, you can find this online. The copies, the price on these online right now are about $80 to $100. I paid about half that when I picked this up. I think I've had this for about a decade now. And what I thought was so interesting about this copy that I picked up is it has a clipping in it. So I love that. I love when books have clippings. Now we're going to look at some of the pictures in this book so you can see what's in it. One thing I love about ephemera shares is sometimes you see something someone shares and you realize, oh, I just got to have that. So I am going to show you pictures that are in here. This book says it's profusely illustrated, and it is. There's a lot of beautiful pictures, a lot of images of famous people who passed away in the wreck and things and such. But I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, and there is a clipping here, and we'll read it, that was saved with this copy of the book. This clipping is from the St. Paul Dispatch, and it is from Tuesday, December 12th, 1972. And it says, survivor recalls sinking of passenger ship Titanic. So if this was 1972 and this person had survived the shipwreck in 1912, it means 60 years later. This person remembers it 60 years later. Okay. A $120,000 replica of the passenger liner Titanic went on permanent display at Northern Shopping Center in Blaine, and Blaine is a suburb of where I live, bringing back memories of the ship's ill-fated maiden voyage to an area resident who survived when the ship sunk in 1912. Mrs. John Pillsbury Snyder. Now, Pillsbury is actually from this area, so it wouldn't surprise me if that isn't the actual name Pillsbury. It wouldn't surprise me at all that she is from the actual family. She is 83 years old, and she is from Wayzata, which is another city near here. And she went to view this replica unveiling last week. She said her first reaction to the model was, it looked much smaller. So apparently size does matter, but this is just a replica, so it was much smaller. To the one who sailed on the ship, which was as long as 4 city blocks and 11 stories high, the 30-foot model probably did look small. The model, exact in virtually every detail to the original, was built by 20th Century Fox Studios for the 1953 movie entitled The Titanic. I didn't even know there was a 1953 movie. I didn't know that. Which starred Robert Wagner and Barbara Steinweg and Clifton Webb. The model was later altered and created a model of the Queen Mary. And the last year, Robert Murr, developer of Northtown, purchased the reconstruction. It cost him $120,000. The reconstruction took 4 months to build. Miss Snyder said she and her husband were returning from a wedding trip when they boarded the Titanic at Southampton, England. She recalls the monstrous iceberg the ship was near when it struck a portion of the iceberg, and that beneath the water ripping over 6 compartments of the hull. Now, this is in quotations, so this is her actual words. People were refusing to get into the lifeboats. After the crash, she said, most of them didn't believe the giant ship could sink. But she and her husband did get aboard a lifeboat, where they spent more than 5 hours during the night before they were rescued by another ship. When the Titanic sank, 1,500 lives were lost, making it the worst maritime disaster ever. The 46,000-ton Titanic was the world's largest ship ever built, and had been heralded as the safest ship ever built. So she got on it to get home from a wedding. So we are going to just take a look at this book. I think the opening page is really kind of beautiful. There's something about the way typography is in old books. I just think it's beautiful. Now, this book goes through everything. It goes through even like the Senate hearings that the U.S. had over what went wrong on the book. It has a full preface and introduction. And let's just look at the contents. Now, I did post the table of contents on my community tab and on Instagram, and asked if anyone cared if there was anything you really wanted to read. And I didn't really get any response. So we're just gonna pick something. So we're living in the moment. And let's look at some beautiful pictures. Oh, another thing that's kind of cool in this book is it lists great maritime disasters from 1866 to 1911. So it lists all the maritime disasters, and it lists how many lives were lost too. So I think they're trying to quantitatively show you that the Titanic was much more. And it is. It's beautifully illustrated. Let's read this one. Hundreds weep at the memorial service held for Archie Butte. I'm gonna guess his last name is Butte, but it might be Butt. So let's all just giggle as little 12-year-olds if we want. So Archie Butte was a very well-known man who did not survive. So let's read this one. 1,500 sincere mourners for Major Archibald W. Butte, lost on the Titanic, wept unashamed at his home in Augusta, Georgia on May 2nd, when President Taft called his former aide affectionately by his first name and choked with tears as he paid a personal tribute to the Army officer. Oh, wow. President Taft was there. It was a monster memorial service for the soldier, where all Augusta paid homage to his memory. President Taft was the main speaker. He was deeply affected by the solemn ritual, and this is in quotations. If Archie could have been selected a time to die, he would have chosen the one God gave him, the president said, his voice broken with emotion. In quotations. His life was spent in self-sacrifice, serving others. His forgetfulness of self had become part of his nature. I couldn't prepare anything in advance to say here, the president continued. I tried, but I just couldn't. He was so near to me. He was loyal to my predecessor, Mr. Roosevelt, who selected him to be military aide, and to me, he had become as a son or a brother. The Taft pictured a new side to Major Butte's character and his love for his mother. I think he never married because of the love for her was taken from him 2 years ago, the president declared. Interesting. So here we have some images that are in the book. Here is an image of the lifeboats. On the lifeboats, it says, the lifeboats of the Titanic, which would only hold 1/3 of the passengers. All could have been saved had there been a sufficient number of boats. These few boats rescued, all were saved from this appalling disaster. So if you were in a lifeboat, you made it, which is actually truly amazing. Oh, this is really interesting. Look at this illustration. It demonstrates how large the Titanic was compared to architecture of the day. Can you imagine seeing that, right? That must have been amazing to see that boat at that time. Oh, and here is a beautiful picture of the entrance hall and the grand staircase. You see this entrance hall in the movie Titanic with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. Let's see. Here is huge iceberg photographed about 100 miles north of the scene of the Titanic disaster. So I'm sure they couldn't be completely sure this was the iceberg that they did hit, but they were probably pretty sure. And then this gentleman right here, this is Isidor Straus, the New York millionaire merchant and philanthropist who lost his life as a guest on the Titanic. So this book has a bunch of really neat photos and illustrations on it. This one's kind of fun, looking at the dining hall. Yeah, wouldn't it be neat to see the earlier movie? It's something like I didn't even really know about. Oh, wow, this is a really powerful image. So I'll tell you what this is first. Seeking information about lost relatives and friends at the office of the steamship company. Now, once you know what that photo is about, it's much more heart-tugging. Honestly, that woman's face, she's holding it together, right? Let's see. Oh, this is a beautiful one. These bright little French children were rescued from the Titanic. Miss Hayes, herself a survivor, is taking care of them. They were coming to America with their father, who went down with the ship. They're too young to know. They'll probably never remember it, right? All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pick some articles to read. All the way through here, they just have different survivor tales listed. Just warning, I have not looked at this beforehand, so there could be some traumatic scenes that I read through. If that's a lot for someone, just warning, I'm not like sugarcoating it to pick like the ones that are the nicest. Like this section is from day of delight to death. So some of these could be a little rough. So We're just going to look and see what I would like to read. Oh, here we go. This is one I would like to read. Captain Smith on the bridge. Let's read that. Captain Smith on the bridge. Captain Smith was on the bridge a moment later, giving orders for the summoning of all aboard and for the putting on of the life preservers and the lowering of the lifeboats. The first boats lowered contained more men passengers than the later ones, as men were on deck first and not enough women were there to fill them. When a moment later the rush of frightened women and crying children on the deck began, enforcement of the women first rule began rigid. Officers loading some of the boats drew their revolvers, but in most cases the men, both passengers and crew, behaved in a way Tratt called for no restraint. Revolver shots heard by many persons shortly before the end of the Titanic caused many rumors. One was that Captain Smith shot himself. Another was that the first officer, Murdoch, ended his life. Smith, Murdoch, and 6 other officers, Moody, are known to have been lost. The surviving officer, like Toller, Pittman, Boxhall, and Lowell, have made no statements. Members of the crew discredit all reports of suicide. They say Captain Smith remained on that bridge until just before the ship sank, leaping only after those on the deck had been washed away. It is also related that when a cook later sought to pull him aboard a lifeboat, he exclaimed, "Let me go." And jerking away, he went down. What became of the men with life preservers is a question asked since the disaster by many a person. Now remember, this is the year it happened still. The preservers did their work of supporting their wearers in the water until the ship went down. Many of those drawn into the vortex, despite the preservers, did not come up again. Dead bodies floated on the surface as the last boats moved away. So what they're saying is, like, even though you had a life preserver, it didn't guarantee anything because the boat's pull was too much if you were too close to the boat. All right, let's see. What else should we listen to? I worry that oh, we got some information here about Butte. Lived with his artist friend. Oh, interesting. Oh, very interesting. So the line in here when they credited he never married because he missed his mother was a cover up for who the man really was. That is fantastically interesting. And that's kind of one of those ways where it's like, who writes the history? Who tells the tale? So in this book in 1912, was saying a man never got married because of love for his mother, was that like code for people to know? Very interesting. All right, let's see. Ooh, let's read this one. This one says, proud of her husband's oarsmanship. So let's read that one. Yep, let's read this one. Mrs. John Jacob Astor and the Countess of Roths had been taken onto staterooms soon after their arrival on shipboard. Those who talked with Mrs. Astor said she spoke often of her husband's ability as an oarsman and said he could save himself if he had a chance. They could have had such chance. She seemed hardly a hope, To another stateroom, a tall, dark man had been conducted, his head bowed, anguish in face. He was Bruce Ismay, head of the International Mercantile Marine and chief owner of the Titanic and her sister ship, the Olympic. He had made the maiden voyage on each of his company's great ships. He remained in his room in a physician's care during the voyage back to New York. Captain Rostrum his only caller was not admitted to see him until Tuesday evening. Before noon, at the captain's request, the first cabin passengers of the Titanic gathered in the saloon and the passengers of other classes in corresponding places on the rescue ship. Then the collecting of names has begun by the pursuer and the stewards. A second table was served in both cabins for the new guests and Carpathia's second cabin. Being better fitted than its first, the second class arrivals had to be sent to steerage. So there wasn't room for them. In the middle of the morning, the Carpathia passed near the spot. So Carpathia, another ship, just is what I'm assuming. Passed near the spot, Seaman said, where the Titanic went down. Only a few floating chairs marked the place. Oh, how eerie is that they passed the spot and you saw the floating chairs. That is eerie. The ice peaks had changed their position. Which of those in sight, if any, caused the wreck was a matter of conjecture. Those of the refugees who had not lost relatives found subject for distress in the reflection of their money and jewels were at the bottom of the sea. Can you imagine? People, could travel with their money in a suitcase, right? Oof. Miss Edith L. Rosenbaum, writer for a fashion trade journal, mourned the loss of trunks containing robes from Paris and Tunis. Several of the late works of Philip Mock, a miniature painter, were lost in baggage. But the artist was not inclined to dwell on the mishap. Oh, interesting. The Olympic. Oh, that's interesting. Here is Captain Smith. A picture of him. He looks like a really nice guy. I don't know if you can just tell that by a photo. I don't know. I think he looks like somebody I would want to captain my boat. He also looks like he might have had Bell's palsy. See how one side of his face slips down a little more? I'm just guessing though. Oh, this is Colonel John Jacob Astor. He's a very striking gentleman. He does look like a sea captain. Oh, here is the Carpathia. Let's see if we can't find. Oh, this is cool. Rescued passengers in one of the Titanic's collapsible lifeboats waiting to be taken aboard the Carpathia. I think the pictures from the time are just so awe-inspiring. Here is a scene on the upper deck of the Titanic. The movie, at least the more modern one that you and me have seen, it really did kind of take you back. But when you see the old pictures, it's also just kind of different because the movie is Hollywood glitz and glam. We know it wasn't a real thing. Yes, it was done extremely well, but it's just different. There's something different about seeing an old photo, right? Look at this beautiful lady. This is Miss John Jacob Astor, bride of Colonel Astor, who went down with the Titanic. Is she not beautiful? What a beautiful lady. And then this picture is a wireless operator sending messages. But for the wireless, the Titanic's passengers would surely have been lost, as they could not have survived in small boats with ice all around them. Can you imagine being a wireless operator during that time, during everything sinking? I mean, like when do you abandon your post, right? Wow. Just wow. Oh, here is Major Archibald Butte right here. And then this is one of the deluxe rooms on the Titanic. This was the type of room that was rented by John Jacob Astor and his bride and the other multimillionaires who went down with the ship. So this was their type of room. What's kind of neat is in this photo, pay attention to the wall on the mirror. It looks like the photographer was captured in this photo. It's really neat. All right, so let's see if I can find something to read that is like, I don't know, not as sad. Let's see if we can find like a good story. There are stories in here. Of course, these are survivor stories, right? So the people who wrote these stories, like they were obviously here to tell the tale, right? Okay, so here is chapter 6, and it says how survivors escaped. So let's see if we can't find something in here to read. So let's read this. It is Mrs. W.J. Cardezia's narrative. Okay. According to Mrs. W.J. Cardezia of Philadelphia, who gave her narrative after she had arrived at the Ritz-Carlton with T.D.M. Cardezia, J. Bruce Ismay, was not only safely seated on a lifeboat before it was filled, but also selected the crew that rowed the boat. Oh, so that's interesting. She selected the crew. According to Mrs. Cardenzia, Mr. Ismay knew that Mr. Cardenzia was an expert oarsman, and he beckoned him onto the boat. Interesting. So her husband made it too. Mr. Cardenzia manned the oars until Mr. Ismay's boat was picked up about 2 hours later. The White Star Line, through Ismay, disclaimed responsibility, saying that it was an act of God. Ismay defended his actions in taking to the lifeboat. Can you imagine? Can you imagine men afterwards having to explain themselves for getting on the boat? But as we even read here earlier, there weren't enough women on deck to fill the boats immediately. Were there any women and children left on the Titanic when you entered the boat? He was asked. The reply was, I am sure I cannot say. And at the time, I believe him. Do you know what I mean? I do. I don't know. Maybe some knew that they were getting on boats without other people, but it was such chaos. I don't know. J. Bruce Ismay described to a reporter how the catastrophe occurred. I was asleep in my cabin, said Mr. Ismay. When the crash came, it woke me instantly. I experienced a sensation as if the big liner were sliding up on something. We struck a glancing blow, not head on, as some persons have supposed. The iceberg, so great was the force of the blow, it tore the ship's halfway back. I think, although I cannot say definitely, there was absolutely no disorder. Oh, interesting. I left in the last boat. I did not see the Titanic sink. I cannot remember how far away the lifeboat in which I had been rowed from the ship that sank. This man was on the last boat, y'all. The last lifeboat. So I'm doubting his story. Now I think there were women and children on the deck. Mr. Ismay began his interview by reading a prepared statement to this effect, in quotations. In the presence and under the shadow of so overwhelming a tragedy, I am overcome with the feelings too deep for words. The White Star Line will do everything humanly possible to alleviate the suffering of the survivors and relatives of those who were lost. The Titanic was the last word in shipbuilding. Every British regulation had been compiled with, and her masters of the officers and crew were most experienced and skillful in the British service. Wow. Because he probably had to testify to the United States Senate, right? Wow. Okay, so now I'm in a section that says how survivors escaped. Okay. And I'm looking around to see like if there's any that I want to read. This one says did not want to leave her husband. It feels like that one's gonna be a little sad. So I'm gonna keep moving forward. We're gonna read one more. Oh, look at this gorgeous illustration, y'all. Look at that. Now her sash says humanity. And then on the ground here, it's a newspaper and it says 1,600 lost at sea. So humanity's crying. That's a beautiful illustration. Ooh, this chapter is women's thrilling narratives. So let's see. Let's read. Okay, so let's read one last story. So last one I'm going to read, and then we're going to play the sheet music again. If you have come in after this has begun, just know that this descriptive sheet music is from 1912, and I hired someone to play this for us. So we're going to play this one more time so you can hear it. If you're watching this on the replay, everything will be linked below in chapters. So the last survivor story I am going to read from this book is entitled Lad Pulled into the Lifeboat. The lad was pulled into the already crowded lifeboat, exhausted. With a weak, faint smile, Mrs. Brown said the lad collapsed. Women who were not rowing or assisting in maneuvering the boat by vigorous rubbing soon brought Thayer to consciousness and shared part of their scanty attire to keep him from dying from exposure. In the meantime, the boat bobbed about on the waves like a top, frequently striking cakes of ice. Mrs. Brown said for several hours, "Oh, you guys, Mrs. Brown. Is that the famous Brown? I don't know. Let's keep reading. Mrs. Brown said for several hours more they battled with the sea before help arrived. It was a blessed sighting when all saw the Carpathia heading in Ardennes, she declared. We had hopes that the ship would come to our rescue, and all on board prayed for safe deliverance. No one can realize our feeling of gratitude when the Carpathia hooved into sight. With increased energy, the men, aided by the women, pulled on the oars. We were soon taken aboard. Young Thayer was hurried into the hospital on board. The boat was given stimulants and revived. 3 survivors died soon after. They were buried at sea. Mrs. Brown said that Mr. Jacob Astor, the wife of the Colonel John Jacob Astor, who proved himself a hero, was also an accompaniment on her boat. Mrs. Astor was frantic when she learned that her husband had gone with the Titanic, but between sobs said he died a hero. Mrs. Brown said. The Colonel kissed her and pushed his bride to the side of the ship and told her to hurry till the lifeboats awaiting below. Mrs. Astor refused to listen to her husband's entreaties until he assured her that he would follow her on the next boat, although all the time he knew he would sink. The following horrors have never left me day or night, Mrs. Brown continued. Isn't that wild how everybody's stories are intertangled? Isn't that kind of wild how, somebody else knew someone who was on that boat and they knew that person who was on this boat. And it's like all their stories are just kind of like intertwined. It's really beautiful. It's beautiful, absolutely sad, but it's also kind of beautiful in a way that in that kind of moment, like humanity's intertwined, you can't get away from the interconnectedness. Now, in this book, also, there is the Senate hearings. So if you're interested about that, this would be a book to pick up for this. Also, at the end of this book, there is a full list. Like in here, there's talking about bodies, unnamed dead. There is a full list in the back of who went down with the ship. So that is in here. It says list of passengers missing and rescued. So it also says official list of passengers rescued. So it's all in here if you're interested in that. And it lists them by their class, which is also interesting. So you can look on with that. We all know that the lower classes really didn't have a chance to get off the boat, as the lower classes filled with water more quickly. But so that is a little glimpse into this gorgeous book. So I absolutely love, I love old books. I'm an aspirational reader, and this is a book that I have not read yet, but I think I need to read through it. I'll probably cry. I probably will. I'm very empathic. So we are going to end today. And I just want to thank everyone for being here. It was so sweet of you being here. I have a whole list of ephemera shares on my channel. If you just are interested in ephemera and different items, this one is different. Having read it to you out loud, talking to you, and we're going to share music. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to play the music again, and then we're going to end for the day. So this music was published in 1912. It is out of copyright, and I hired a pianist to play this for us so you can hear it. Now, if you were alive in 1912, this would have been one of the ways that you would have experienced the wreck. This would have been one of the ways that you would have kind of knew what was happening, since, now everybody's recording events on their phone. We see it on TikTok and Instagram. We see events in real time. This would have been the real time recording of what happened for people. Yes, Jennifer. Yes. Oh, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you coming here. I think history is fascinating. My grandma was a great historian. Much better with history than I am. I can't remember exact things, but I have so many beautiful things that I want to share, and I thought this would be kind of a neat way to do it. So, all right. So next, we are yet again going to, we're going to listen to the Descriptive song, okay? The pianist did an absolutely wonderful job playing this. I was very, very happy with the product that they provided. I did hire them on Fiverr, and I did tip them generously. So I will leave their contact info below. If you ever want to hire anyone to play something, I highly recommend her. She does a great job. So here we go. We're going to play a song a descriptive narrative of the sinking from 1912. It's about 5 minutes and 22 seconds long. So here we go. And that is it. So thank you, everybody who joined me live. I truly appreciate it. I know there's so many things you could be doing on the weekend, and I'm really honored that you spent it with me, gave me some of your time. I never take that for granted. I know time is the most valuable thing we have. But kind of remembering things like this is always kind of like it kind of chokes you up, because it's like their time was up on that moment, and it's one of those things like we hope we never forget, and uh, I I had to laugh. We think of the movie, right, and the fictional couple on there, and boy, did the movie tug at my heartstrings. But I'm sure, in real life, this was much more than that movie, right? So, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And today we honor everybody who was lost in this tragedy. And, we shared some ephemera from the time. So if you were alive in 1912, this is something you had access to know what happened. So that's what's so magical about vintage ephemera. It takes you back to that exact time period. That's why I love ephemera so much. So let me know in the comments after this video posts if you liked hearing that composition. Maybe it's something I move forward in the future and do more of by playing some music that is out of copyright. And yeah, this is just kind of different. And if you love ephemera, just know I do have a full ephemera playlist on this channel. So if you like looking at vintage ephemera and things, there's a full playlist too. So thank you so much for being here, and y'all stay creative. So bye. Appreciate you. Bye.